I'm going to share with you what I think is a very much needed introduction to our next speaker. Ms. Karen Clifton began her work against the death penalty in 1996 in Houston, Texas. That's 25 years. And subsequently partnered with Sister Helen Prejean of the Congregation of St. Joseph Sisters on social justice and advocacy projects to create the Catholic Mobilizing Network in 2008. She currently serves on the board. The CMN creates and distributes educational materials about the Church's pro-life teachings regarding the death penalty and restorative justice for use in parishes and faith communities. These resources include radio podcasts in English and Spanish, workshops with facilitator guides, state-specific fact sheets, parish bulletin inserts, and more. The CMN also networks and presents at national faith-based conferences each year to educate and mobilize people of faith to end the death penalty. Karen has been an organizer and advocate for education of pro-life teachings on the death penalty and restorative justice since 1990. Her work has been associated with the Catholic Worker, the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, the San Jose Clinic, AIDS Ministry, and the Ignatian Spirituality Project. She is currently the coordinator of the Catholic Prison Ministries Coalition, the CPMC, an initiative of CMN, and the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. Karen holds a master's in divinity from the University of St. Thomas, St. Mary's School of Theology, and has worked in spiritual direction since 1996. She is the mother of 5 adult children and grandmother of 10 grandchildren. Karen was awarded the 2011 Restorative Practices Award by the Path to Peace Foundation, the mission of the Vatican to the United Nations to promote peace. Karen will be talking to us about creating a just and more merciful incarceration system. And remember, Karen will be answering as many questions as we can at the end of her presentation. So please get those questions going. As we're finishing off, get on over to the microphone in the back, sit down there. Maybe if you have one, you want to sit down there early that you might want to ask. But we're going to quickly go over those questions, and we're going to alternate between your questions and those online that come to us from the virtual Zoom meeting. So please put your hands together for Ms. Karen Clifton.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be here with you, the energy in this room, sharing you and sharing the Holy Spirit, which I truly feel present here. And so what a gift, and especially post-COVID, it's like a shot in the arm. And I really appreciate you in inviting me here to be able to share with you about this new entity that was formed specifically for people exactly like you that have been chosen, like Father George talked about, and the Catholic Prison Ministries Coalition. Sorry, I'm doing a little technical, just checking in here on this. Okay, making sure forward. Okay, thank you. I want to just start off with, and have up here is an icon. And this was done by an artist, Jack Prosciutta. And he was someone very much like you that was trying to discern whether or not he wanted to go into prison ministry. He was 50 years old. He'd been very active, successful businessman. And he went into the prison. He joined an organization for, it's called Ignatian Volunteers. And it's over 50 volunteers. And he found himself in the back rows of a prison, handing out communion. And he was one of those that when the door closed, he realized this was not for him. He found himself, and just over times carrying the weight, he couldn't shake it, and he found himself just breaking down and crying at times. But he was an iconographer, and he had gifts that he wanted to share, and he knew the story. So he had seen, and what you've seen, you can't unsee. And so he wanted to do some kind of a ministry. And so in that ministry, he started creating icons and prayer resources that go with it. So like Father George, I would like to begin with us as a communal voice, saying a prayer that's on one of the back of the cards. So if you could say it with me. Mother of captives, your Son came to proclaim liberty, soften our captive hearts, harden our distrust and judgment. Give us grace to see the dignity of all, the captives, the captor, the survivors, the families. By your example, teach us to be gentle. Show us how to be restorers of peace and wholeness. By your example, teach us the power and the deception of yes. Show us how to challenge injustice and apathy. By your example, teach us the gift of persistent patience. Show us how to listen to the unheard, the guilty, the innocent, the forgotten. Mother of captives, inspire us, move us, be with us. Amen. I think some of these cards have been put into your into your packets, and so please enjoy. They're wonderful and beautiful. Sorry. Why do we do this ministry? And I think Father George did it. He summed it up very, very beautifully, that all of you were called, you were chosen. And so we're engaging and seeking and looking into engaging a ministry of presence. And then Gabe followed it up with about how the gift of your presence has an impact. And what a beautiful impact. You know, but just in the radiation and the glow of Gabe, we've got present with us today. And so, sorry, I'm going to stick with the technology. I also want you to hear very quickly from a gentleman that I know, Bobby Garcia. And it's amazing with legislative change, we have some amazing people re-entering our society with gifts, and they're sharing those gifts. So I'm just going to have Bob.
Chances. I am a result of a second chance. I was formerly incarcerated in 1992 at the age of 16. I was given a sentence of 25 years to life to serve in adult prison. Being young, being in a state of desolation, and feeling defeated, I served my time following the bad people. A time came when I needed some consolation in my life, and I started searching for healing, and I started searching for spirituality. And my change came through being involved in several programs, but most importantly, what continued in my evolution of change was being a part of a community that cared about me and gave me spiritual discernment. I've made many journeys.
I'm going to cut it off there because he goes in to talk about how he got involved legislatively, and he still continues to work on changing laws, the unjust ones that make it difficult and place impediments for those that are re-entering society. And so I want to look at a quick snapshot as far as who we are ministering to. And this is just a general overview. Prison Policy Felt Initiative they were just released in March. It's called The Whole Pie 2020. And it's a good example, and because there's so much information in this, and as you can see, and I have a copy here if anybody wants to look at it, but it's many, many diagrams, and it goes into a lot of that, and we'll get into a little bit of that this afternoon with our representative that's going to be with us. But Prison Policy Initiative is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization which produces research focusing on the broader harm of mass incarceration to spark advocacy to create a more just society. So on this slide, you see that the U.S. locks up more people per capita than any other nation. To end mass incarceration, we need to look at where and why 2.3 million people are confined nationwide. Just in Texas, we have 251,000 residents that are locked up in various facilities. We are incarcerating disproportionately people of color and disproportionately people in poverty, which we need to realize especially affects women. That's the fastest rising imprisoned population. And the numbers are staggering in just the last recent years, like 700%. But the thing that we need to remember, and I hope that you all carry this to heart, especially being people of families, is that 80% of the women that are incarcerated have children. And what I mean by that is that these are people that are having to leave their children to someone else's care. But for those of you that are discerning or have already experienced this ministry, the staggering statistic is the wide rippling effect of incarceration. So if you look at that bottom number, as far as that 113 million adults have an immediate family member in prison or jail in this country. So you need to think about, in this country, that's really is like 1 in 3 Americans are that closely affected. So the statistic even gets higher if you add children or that people have people that they love that are in prison. And so many articles that come across me at my desk are in reading, it's 1 in 2 people. So this is a wide rippling effect that we, especially as Catholic Christians, are called to address and to be present to. And you're not behind the gate just pretending that my world is my bubble and it's perfect. So in response to Pope Francis' inquiry on the state of prison ministry in the United States, a survey he contacted the nuncio contacted the U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops, and we sent out a survey across the diocese to find out who was doing what and where. Unfortunately, we got a response from like 53 dioceses, and the response was low. And the immediate reaction was, we as Catholics, we've got to do better than this. So in April of 2018, the USCCB and Catholic Mobilizing Networks, we gathered together when we were publishing our book on restorative justice, our second book, Redemption and Restoration. We pulled together 30 leaders from Catholic organizations that were ministering to people that were affected by incarceration, brought them to the table, and we did a discernment as far as to determine what was needed, what is the best response to this. So we had people like Catholic Charities USA and St. Vincent de Paul and Dismas Ministries that Father mentioned, Paulist Prison Ministries, Knights of Malta, anyone that was doing active work. And what the response was out of that, or what came from that, was that we, and this was a response to a plea, especially from the laity, for support, resources, formation, and promotion of the good works that were being done for those that are, for Catholics that were doing this ministry, those in the trenches. So Catholic Prison Ministry was initiated, and our mission was of recruiting, training, supporting, and empowering those called to this ministry. So CPMC strives to create a more just and merciful criminal justice system that upholds the dignity of every human person and advances restorative justice. Now, those of you that your awareness is on the criminal justice system, you've heard that word several times on restorative justice. So I want to take just a quick little sidestep on that, on what is restorative justice. And so a second little book is a quick little primer to this monster, more academic book on the Catholic approach or perspective of restorative justice. Came out, and it's on harm, healing, and human dignity. And it's a real quick little how-to. But in this booklet, it's restorative justice calls us to see crime and harm in any form as a violation of people and relationships, rather than as solely as a violation of the law. So that's crucial. That's moving that more into our area. And the whole meaning of what prisons were created for in the beginning is to have somebody to be able to move aside, set aside, and be able to reflect. And it was done under of a Christian reflection kind of along with trying to protect society. So when the bishops, they wrote a document in 2000, Responsibility, Rehabilitation, and Restoration. And in it, they said, a Catholic approach begins with the recognition that the dignity of the human person applies to both the victim and the offender. As bishops, we believe the current trend of more prisons and more executions with too little education and drug treatment does not truly reflect Christian values and will not really leave our communities safer. We are convinced that our tradition and our faith offer better alternatives and can hold offenders accountable and challenge them to change their lives, reach out to victims and reject vengeance, restore a sense of community, and resist the violence that has engulfed so much of our culture. So there are restorative practices or some of the things that you implement in your retreat. There's the opportunities that you gather in circles or in the sharing. So there's a new book that's just come out. It's now up on the Catholic Mobilizing Network's website, A Path of Renewed Encounter. And it is it is going to be coming out in print next month, but it'll assist you in implementing practices into your ministry, your organization, and your parishes. We need to start at home, in our homes, in our houses. How do we speak in a positive means together? And how do we need to learn how to form community again and how to be able to share. Some of the most powerful sharing experiences I've had have been in prison, in circles, in groups, because everybody's been stripped away, and we've had that opportunity to be able to share from the heart and deep. And so we as communities in church, we need to go back to that model of community. And how do we know and take care from those that we are just receiving communion with on a weekly basis? So there's some wonderful little techniques. So that's just a little side commercial on restorative practices and how we as a faith community can renew and reintegrate those in. So back to CPMC. So when we brought all these 33 faith leaders together, they were the tops of the organizations, and we really wanted to get and feed, what did you need? Those are the people that are going into the prison. What are the actual things that you need? So the first thing we did is what Father George mentioned, is that we started holding webinars, and we thought that this would be an opportunity for us to be able to talk back and forth and figure out what was needed. So we have held now 61 webinars. We hold them once a month, the second Wednesday of the month. It's open for everyone, 12 to 1 in Central Time. And you can tap in, and we have the national leaders speaking on key issues that just gives you it just broadens your awareness and when you go into the prisons, as far as for formation, even when we're talking about listening skills and all the way from how do you minister to someone that is addressing behavioral health issues, which is the correct term. I've been corrected from mental illness. And so addressing behavioral health issues, how do we sit with somebody that you can visibly see as sitting in trauma? And so we've got all of those are up on the website, free to listen at any time. And then when COVID hit and when people were restricted from going in, we immediately flipped to holding monthly town halls. So we hold a town hall at the beginning of the month, and this goes back to our mission as far as we want to elevate and lift up and promote and to stop duplication. And it's almost like we need to franchise some of our amazing programs like Colby. And Colby was Gerald was one of our presenters at one of the town halls. It was an opportunity for him to present at what Colby is doing, and then for hopefully it will be franchised and go across the country as other people, because we as a church, as George alluded to, we work in silos. We've got some amazing programs that are going on, but they may be in California with Homeboys Industry, working with the gangs, or it may be up in Chicago with Father David Kelly, working with Precious Blood, and these amazing ministries. But you know, we're in Texas and we're our own country, so a lot of times we're not aware of what all is going on in the world, and so or the rest of our country, and we need to be open and listening, and getting tips. So as Catholics, we need to work not in silos but in community and collaborative. And so the main thing that we were hearing, though, is that we needed formation. People needed to feel like they were prepared when they went in. And as Father George alluded, a prayer is the core and the base of having that. But it's also, when you're working with a traumatized person, you need to have the awareness tips of that you're not accepting or getting secondary trauma and carrying that outward and perpetuating that trauma. We need to stop that and offload the trauma. And so for the last 3 years, a group of seasoned Catholic prison ministers and the USCCB Certification Office, and we are a sponsored ministry of the National Association of Catholic Chaplains, and the national CPE organizations have worked together to create 3 levels of formation and certification. So the formation of volunteer is a basic training, and we encourage people who are discerning and people who are seasoned ministers to participate in this training. And it's being held in dioceses and within Catholic organizations. And the reason we want those that are seasoned, it's an opportunity. We have the 6 45-minute videos. There's extra materials that are given. We take in like 20 people, but it gives the opportunity for shared stories from the mentors, from those that have done that, have experiences within, to share them with those that are not. We are called, and looking around here, I say this as a person in my age bracket, we need to become elders, and we need to make sure that we have the next generation of ministers coming behind us. And so this is a perfect opportunity to do that. And it is also builds, what I've witnessed within dioceses and what I've witnessed within organization, it builds a community, and you don't feel like you're the only one doing this, and a safe place to reflect on things that have happened and share that, and it's enriching, as are your experiences when you go in. So we have this basic volunteer training, and we piloted in New Orleans and in Santa Fe, and we've now passed the pilot phase. It's been done in the Archdiocese of Seattle, and the Knights of Peter Claver have reached out to us. Other groups have reached out to us as far as to form an enclave, and we will bring in national facilitators. They will basically train the trainers, and then within your organizations, you can continue it. And it can be kind of your onloading or a formation for people so that they have the comfort level when they go into the prisons. So then from there, after taking this base level, we've created a paraprofessional and a professional level for those of you that are called to go on and do this ministry, either as a full-time volunteer or as a job, as a vocation. And so this is all of these certifications we've done alongside of the office, the USCCB Certification Office, but the bishops are meeting in September, and they will ratify those at that time. Then we're taking it back to the federal prisons and working on changing some of the laws. This has been an issue that the bishops have brought up, is that we lack Catholic prison ministers in formal job roles because of the fact that we have the church has stipulated that it has to be an ordained role, and we need to shift this and open it up and broaden it to include the laity. So I'd love to talk to people afterwards. Yeah, thank you. And that's where it's going, because that's who's doing the work. And so I'd love to talk to groups afterwards more about this. But I'm making sure I click that. But besides to having these 3 levels of formation, there's a lot of other issues that we're working on with National Catholic Organizations for training. And one of them right now is we've piloted, now we've launched, is Healing the Wounded Heart. And the American Bible Society has had this program for our Protestant brothers and sisters for some time. That organization now has a Catholic branch, which also they have free access to Bibles. If you reach out to them, I can give you, it's on our website. Mike Kurata is our Catholic representative. And they have created a Catholic version of basically 4 sessions, 2 hours, same thing, sign up. And it's really learning about trauma-informed care. So there's some role playing in it and extra materials to learn on that. The same goes with other major issues that we sometimes are blinded or need to be made aware of or spend time with, just sitting with some of these other issues. the U.S. Catholic Sisters reached out to us about the human trafficking, and when she said it, it made totally sense as far as that the prison population is the most heavily trafficked organization. People reach out to them, they're in need, they need finances, their money, they come out, they're indebted, and they're put it right into another form of slavery. And this cycle needs to, but we need to, you as going in and listening to these stories, be aware of what's going on inside, and having this awareness. When you hear things, you're able to let people know, and we can break some of these cycles, especially in trafficking and the sex abuse that goes on with our LGBTQ population. And we as Catholics need to learn how to be present with them. So Bishop Stowe is an organization, Fortunate Families, that we're working with to create a training on how to minister to that population within the prisons. We also, we want to hear from you as far as if there's any other topics that you believe that we need to be addressing, because this CPMC is formed basically to support Catholics to make sure that we can grow in this huge umbrella and touch all of the people that are affected by incarceration, this wide rippling effect. So we're talking reentry, we're talking families, we're talking victims, we're talking their children. So, excuse me. Okay, I want to talk about, real quick, the opportunities to get involved. So as many of you are discerning, the retreat is a wonderful opportunity, but you may not feel called once you do go in. You have the wonderful experience, but that is it. But if you feel like you're called to do more, but maybe not within the prisons, I just want you to know that there's so many needs. As with so many people affected by incarceration, this wide, huge umbrella, it's the fallout of it. We also, as Catholics, need to be present too. So many of you have immediately transitioned into doing a pen pal program. Those letters are so powerful. The Knights of Malta have a set national program, and they have a whole office set up to match and pair people, mail it in, and then mail it out. So it's kind of done in an anonymous way. So if a comfort level, even they take from 18-year-olds and up, and a lot of school classes even do it as a project. There is a program that it came from the Northeast. It's called One Parish, One Prisoner. It's an ecumenical. It is done by the Archdiocese of Seattle. It's based with them. They're one of the key components. And they did a survey and realized that there was one prisoner for every religious congregation in their city. So they made a pact or request to everybody to adopt one prisoner. And that is they just started correspondence a couple of years before, sending them letters, just getting to know them. And then when they came out, they had a welcoming committee. This is not a social work thing. This is just a welcoming community. Can you imagine if we had a welcoming community sort of set in place like Colby for all of those that are coming out of prison? The recidivism rate would just bottom out. We're at a 76.6% recidivism rate in this country. That's, it's just a revolving door. But we need to break that cycle. So that's, they have a program planned, they come in, they help, and it's spreading across the country. Angel Tree Prison Fellowship has done this for years. A lot of dioceses do this as far as a giving program, as far as gifts for kids, so that the kids receive something from their parents, just in another a means of keeping that connection and that bond, which is so easily broken when people go into prison. I don't know, there's a stat, and I'm gonna shoot low, but it's like $15,000 for a family per incarceration to stay in touch with a family member. And a lot of these families, $15,000 is not there. So what happens is that connection is lost, and we need to facilitate and keep families connected. Implement restorative practices, learn about them, and utilize those. Hire and mentor, go into mentoring program for reentry programs as far as for formerly incarcerated people. When they come out, that's when they're so vulnerable, and such a great need is there, especially for women. I call on the women in this room. And all we're talking about, and it's stuff that, you think, well, I'm not qualified, I'm not a social worker, and I'm not a parole officer and all that. It's just knowing they could call somebody when I haven't ever used a computer. Can you know where I should go, or that my cell phone did this? All of this technology is changing so fast. I'm having a hard time keeping up. Can you imagine if you just been out of it for 20 years? It'd be like, Back to the Future kind of stories, or feel that way. And so, and advocacy is another thing that each and every one of us can do. And I'm delighted that that's on the program later, as far as we can write letters, we can call, we can go to our Catholic Advocacy Days in Austin and promote the change of laws. And one of them is the reason that it costs $15,000 for people to keep in touch, the high cost of phone, email, all the charges that are put in, lots of little details. Big Brothers and Big Sisters, they've got programs that several dioceses are connected with, and that's just keeping children connected with their parents. I Googled here, when I was in DC, there was a woman that had a crazy scenario that she had. A friend of hers, she allowed her daughter to store some stuff in a storage unit she had, and if you wouldn't believe it, the kid was storing drugs. She ended up getting 7 years, and this is just like letting someone use her storage unit. But her 7 years, she ministered or was present to these people in prison, the women. And when she came out, she created an organization where she went in and she started filming men reading to their kids, because she knew that the men were in that area were really having a hard time and losing connection with their children. So she, especially at holidays and stuff, for Father's Day and for all of the different holidays. So I just Googled and I saw that here in Texas, we have the Women's Storybook Project here in Texas. So there's lots of ways to get involved. Advocacy is key. And so we work with the USCCB and with numerous organizations. So on our website, Catholic Prison Ministries Coalition.org, you can easily connect, link, click, and sign on for those. So in ending, I feel like the best person is those voices from within that, or now without, that are doing amazing work to basically tell you, thank you. So I'm going to play Elder's going to make a comment.
Programs over the course of my time, nearly a quarter century in the prison system, impacted my life in a way to help me learn how to be myself, to help me connect with spirit, help me connect with the fact that it is okay to have emotions, that it is okay to love, and it is okay to just be. Without the individuals who volunteered and worked in prison under the ministry, it would be a very, very, very dismal place. It would be a very abysmal place of mere existence. Prison is one of the saddest and horrific places that I've ever experienced in my life. And the one shining space and light for me over the course of that time was participating in prison ministry programs. So thank you all for what you do. Please continue being who you are and providing a light and safe spaces for individuals in the depths of darkness to come and be. Peace.
Just a quick note, on the Colby Ministries website, there is in the PowerPoint, these are all links to different things that were mentioned. And I too just want to thank you for the gift of your yes and the gift of your presence. And the reason for being here is just to let you know that there is an organization that's out there. Our whole mission is to promote, help, and facilitate what you're doing. So please reach out, get involved, and allow us to grow, since this is a new entity, into what you need it to be. So thank you very much.
Thanks for questions. Sure. All right, thank you so much, Karen. And I believe we have some questions, but a comment first. Kathleen, Catherine? 3, 2, 1. Try it now. Nope. On.
I'm just,
There you go.
okay, I'm stepping back because we have that mic turned up. So we got a comment back, Karen, as a nurse, it's mandatory to get CEUs on human trafficking and trauma-informed care is touched upon. This is a wonderful thing, and we need for all volunteers to know this. Just wonderful. Thanks to Karen for bringing this book title out for this conference. It's so very needed. Just wanted to add that accolade. Thank you, Karen.
No, thank the nurse that's doing that work, and I really appreciate that because we'll look into how we can make the CPE unit or the credits, make that connection. for
Okay.
that.
Now, we understand that you do work as an initiative of the USCCB. Are there any things behind the scenes that might be coming that would help support prison ministry and Colby Prison Ministry in particular, that the bishops and the priests, I know we have a very tough time and it's a consistent message of getting enough priests to go into the units. Can you share any insights?
Well, I really appreciated the input I've received last night, even, and in my conversations with Gerald. We are going to be meeting with the committee, and we're holding 2 sessions with bishops, September 23rd and October 8th, and we will bring this issue up, and we'll be the voice for you. So we will be saying, how can we work with the bishops to make this, to resolve this issue?
Thank you. Please, if you're in the audience and you want a question, you've got a few seconds to come up. I'm going to keep going with the questions from the virtual group, but we don't want to drown you out either. What can we do to get those in our local parish that we attend to become interested in prison ministry and support those who come out of the system?
Thank you. We're working on right now, and it's going to be the second Wednesday in Lent, is going to be an educational packet, sort of like what CRS does with the Rice Bowl, because one of our missions is to elevate and lift up this topic, because unless it touches you, you can just go, and as is now touching more of us tangentially, but you can just live your life, and that's there, because the prisons are way off. They're not in our backyard. They're not something most of us pass every day. And so what we're creating is a packet with an informational overview of, and really a plea and a need and the reason why minister, and then letting them know that we're creating steps to make there an entry point for people to get involved. So that will be coming. Since I'm doing commercials, we don't have a set date yet because we're waiting on the moderator, but we're going to, in the fall, do our quote first event, and that is going to be on contemplative prayer fellowship. Has the prisoners that have been involved in contemplative prayer within the prisons have created a documentary. They did it in combination with Mount St. Mary's University. They filmed it for free. It's unbelievable. And so we're going to premiere that for them in the fall.
Karen, we have a question. In Central Texas, we have found that in the women's prisons, the women who have abused their own children, and that's what they're in for, are very concerned that their children are being abused still by the families that they've been placed with. Is this being addressed?
I can't tell you, I can't give you a definitive answer on that, but if this is a concern, and I know in working with women, when you're in circle and you hear something, you just gently go behind the scenes and take it up the ladder. And once you have heard that, we are legally responsible to report it. And so be it you go to their social worker or their counselor and you say, this is what they told me. And then they have the opportunity to meet with them and ask the questions so that they can get that information out, so that they can put it into, the legal channels of how to get that attended to. So, but yes, thank you for bringing it up, and we need to.
Karen, my name is Mark. I'm an ex-offender, and I'm here at St. Peter's. And I have to say that probably the greatest thing was that the parish itself was open and willing. 4 years after getting here, I was on the parish council, and actually served as the council president as a felon. And it was the openness and the willingness to accept. I mean, once the archdiocese signed off and checked the box, everyone was just so open. And I think the biggest piece of that was with the Acts ministry. And that Saturday night when everybody's telling their story, I thought, well, I don't know why I'm worried. And so I think that there has to be that groundwork, that formation, where there's the acceptance of not just the felons, but all sinners. And I think that that's where with St. Peter's, Acts has just been a huge piece of that, and the acceptance piece. And I think, if you could talk to that just a little bit.
Mark, you made my day. I mean, what a gift. And, that's our dream is that we will have a welcoming church community. But the thing that gives me heartbreak is when you know the odds and the percentage, and incarceration hits all strata of economics. So even in your wealthy churches, when they go in, there are people and family members that are hurting, and we're not open and receptive. So that's a little bit of why a push for restorative practices that creates a circle opportunity, creating circles to just basically form community, but through that, have a space or a designated opportunity for people to come in and to be able to share this. My son was just incarcerated, or my son died of suicide. All of these groups, where do we take this pain? And as community, we need to be present to one another. So what a gift. And so thank you for sharing that.
I think we have opportunity for one more. So, Ed.
Karen, Ed Smith. Along the same line, Colby Prison Ministry doesn't usually get involved with reentry, but some of the prisons, one prisoner in particular that it really hurts my heart to hear, he was a sex offender, and he's released, very active with a Catholic community while he was in prison. And he tried to get involved in a local parish when he got out, but because of the nature of his crime, he was rejected by the church, by the pastor specifically. He couldn't get into the various ministries that he wanted to get into. So hopefully in your connection with the USCCB, we can do something about that.
I'm sorry. But thank you, Ed, for bringing that up, because you hit the nail on the head of another topic that we need to address, and that is the hardest. We hear more painful stories about sex offenders and being rejected, and unfortunately, that title we need to remember may be someone that is 18 with a 16-year-old girlfriend long term, and it's not we immediately go to the worst of the worst, but there's a lot of gray area in that. So, and unfortunately, they wear that scarlet A for life. So we need to do more, way more. So thank you for bringing that up. That was perfect.
Looks like we do have one left. Okay.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Stan Harmon. I'm with St. Mark's Parish here in San Antonio. My question is this. I'm being inundated with all this claims for social justice, including the presentations today. But what I don't hear is the need for a relationship with Jesus, but the need for holiness. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any program out there for holiness. And I know in my life, if I didn't have a relationship with Jesus, my life would totally fall apart. I'd be a rag doll. Would you please speak to the need for holiness?
Yeah. I hope that you have heard with Father George as far as the basis of prayer and that relationship and that grounding. And that is, we emulate that and we carry that message in. And that's the whole reason we're going in, is to share that with it. So that is the grounding you're talking about. And that's one of the reasons we want to do this event in the centering prayer, as far as that prayer needs to be the grounding and basis. But I'll just want to comment on one thing. I know for myself personally, and through this ministry, I have grown. I have received so much more than I've ever even attempted to give, as far as, because dealing with people that have been stripped, it has set my priorities straight. It has they have questioned me, they have challenged me, and seeing what they've gone through has caused me to grow, and it has also caused me to grow in my prayer and in my faith. So I just cannot say enough for this ministry. So go be touched, see, and you cannot unsee once you have seen, and I promise it will reward you like no other thing that you have done before. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you so much. There are other questions that we will follow up at the very end. I think they'll either be touched or you will be, we will email the speakers like Karen and get your answers back to you. Thank you so much.